Did they sign Tom Brady and nobody told me? Did they? What happened?
By the way, that ball was caught. Just pointing it out there. Oh, man. Good morning and welcome to episode 22 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry, and I'm hoping you can hear me. We're having all sorts of issues today. And by we, I mean me.
Finally, it's not me.
Yeah, it's not Stoner and his internet. It is, in fact, me. So I'm Nathan Perry. He's the Stoner, and this is Ref the District. And like I said, man, it's been quite a morning. Had some technical difficulties. We're ready to go, right? Live, you leave to go get your coffee. I'm like, hey, man, you got 3 minutes to get that coffee. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, my computer just went like I'm looking at black screens, but I can still hear the music, which is interesting because I can't hear the music, now. I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can see you, and I believe everybody else can hear you.
I think they can.
We'll see what happens.
I can definitely see that my microphone is kicking out sometimes. So we'll see. Maybe I might have to tone it down just a little bit. So
yeah, for some reason you're really close. You're a lot closer than you usually are. Maybe that's how you did.
I had to readjust the screen, wanted to get a little closer, so we kind of look the same because I kind of had this like far back thing, and you were close up, so I was trying to get us be a little bit closer.
And also literally like 2 minutes before we went live, your mic was still not working. And we had to fix that.
It's been a morning, man. It's been a morning. I had to take my kid to swim. We weren't sure if we were in the right swim class. He was supposed to be in like early swimmers, and he's doing stroke development. There's this kid who's like 13 years old. My kid's 8 years old. There's a 13-year-old who's like literally doing like the front stroke and backstroke and doing the whole length of the pool. And my kid's still working on like doing his leg kicks and stuff. So it was not so much.
Is that how he learned though?
It is, yeah. So it's interesting because he does such a good job when he's like forced to, right? So like when he jumps into the deep end, like he dives in there and then he swims to the edge, no problem.
Yeah.
But when he can touch the bottom because he's a big kid, he's like, oh no, I got to touch the bottom. It's like, no, just like the deep end, just keep on swimming, man.
It's a swimming class, not a touch the bottom class.
And that's what we're going to do today with all the technical difficulties is we're just going to keep on swimming. All right. We've got a few things here for you. So we put up a Twitter poll. That's going to be our game for today is which Washington football team member, had the greatest impact for the team within the last 20 years. So that's going to be the game today. Post game, we're going to be talking about those Wizards and their coaching hunt and who's still out there and who do we want to see in the seat. And then for our pregame warm-up today, it is the red hot, even though they've lost the last two. Yeah. I'd still consider them, the heaters kind of cooled down, but they're still a lot better than they were before. That's our Washington Nationals. Mm-hmm. So did you, by the way, within the last couple of games, did you say you were back on then? Because they went on a heater the moment you were like, I'm done with them. Right. And then the reverse curse happened.
Yeah, that's kind of part of my genius a little bit, right? So when I'm ready to bail, and I don't do it for shtick, I do it because I believe it. And so about 2 weeks ago, I said they're done. I'm out. They've got no shot. And then they just went on this ridiculous heater. I think since then they're like 11-3, a ridiculous record.
Yeah, but Schwarber is just knocking them out of the park every game.
He's setting all kinds of records, not Nats records. He's setting all kinds of major league records for number of home runs in a certain amount of games and from the leadoff spot and all that. So we know what he's doing is not sustainable, right? He can't do that the entire year. All of a sudden he went from a nobody to leading the league in home runs and RBIs.
I don't know if nobody's accurate, but he went from just having a season to now all of a sudden he's we're seeing Schwarbombs just at a ridiculous pace. You're right. He can't keep this up.
Right.
We know that, but like I've said, right, when you get assistance from people that you're not expecting assistance from, that helps during these times where your stars are struggling. In this case, Soto isn't. I don't think he's healthy. I don't think he's back. I don't think he's not the best hitter in baseball right now, which he has really been, at least in the conversation for the last two seasons, and probably was last season.
Yeah.
So, while he's trying to work his issues out, you need somebody like Schwarber to step up to cover down. Trey Turner still is having an amazing season. So he needs to be an all-star.
He does.
So,
but Schwarber, he's not an other guy. He's a guy that they brought in specifically to do what he's doing. Yeah, he has to do that.
He's probably going to be an all-star for like the 9th season in a row, right? I think he's going on 7 or 8 runs. Schwarber, isn't he?
Oh, no, not even. I don't even.
I thought I saw that. I'm pretty sure I saw that tweet from somebody.
Schwarber maybe once. Maybe. Well, I'll look that up here as we go along.
Yeah, he's not
an
all-star. Look that up.
He's not a perennial all-star.
So they've had quite the resurgence, and a lot of people obviously they put it on Schwarber, but the pitching's been really good too. I mean, a lot of these games they're winning close games. The last 2 that they've lost, it was because the pitching staff just completely imploded. So that's where I think that they're going to really have to keep it. If they're, Schwarber goes back to just being just another guy, as long as the pitching staff can still hold it together, I think the team's going to be fine. And this is where I said that they needed to be, right? They needed to be around 500. As we get towards the All-Star break, and they're 2 games under now because they got to 500, they dropped 2, so they're 2 games under 500. But they're kind of back in that race for the East.
Yeah, and that's their only
where
shot.
They need to be.
That's their only shot, right? They're not a wild card team. for sure.
It's not looking like it.
No.
Unless the scene, drastically changes.
Yeah.
But all you need is a seat and a chair, right?
Well, that's right.
They just need.
Ask the Canadians in the NHL. They're the last team in, and they're going to be one of the last two standing. So for sure, all you need is a chair. What did you say? A chip in a chair?
I said a seat in a chair, but chip in a chair, yeah.
A chip in a chair.
Seat in a chair, yeah, is not exactly
it's not the saying. Right cliche.
But again, this morning,
it's been a rough morning. I understand. You can botch all the cliches if you want.
I mean, even in our little fun intro thing, I say it's just I don't say just putting it out there. I say something else instead of that. So
right. Yeah. I'm not back on the Nats because I think what they did in the last 2 weeks is not sustainable. So I don't think they're a playoff team.
Keep condemning them, even if they go on another 10-game win streak.
They had that one ridiculous game where they beat Philly 13-12, which was amazing, and they got all kinds of clutch hits in that game. But that was an insane game. That was probably the game of the season, in all of the Major League Baseball, not just for the Nats, but that game was just ridiculous. The Nationals coming back from 2 huge deficits. Getting and winning and 13-12. Yeah, they kept giving to come back from a deficit means obviously you have to give up the runs and then you have to get down. So they were down 5 at one point, and then they were down 4, and then they were even down.
It was like
1 going into the 9th.
9-5. Yeah.
Yeah. So but this whole thing is this what they've done so far in the first 70 games, however many games it is so far, is not sustainable to be a winner. So something has to change. Strasburg coming back, Soto's got to get right, and Bell, who's your number 4 hitter, has got to start hitting a little bit better. Because Schwarber
defensively at first base, he's doing pretty well.
Yeah, sure. Defensively,
defensively he's doing what he needs to do. He's been making a couple plays. That sliding catch that he did, I'm not sure he had to slide, but he did. It made it look good. So
he's been defensively, the whole team's been great. But he's got to hit more. They brought him in to hit, just like Schwarber. They brought those 2 in to hit. But this lineup doesn't scare you, does it? Other than Schwarber on his hot streak, he kind of scares you at the top. Turner and Soto, and then that's it. You have nobody else to worry about the rest of the way. So that's not good. But also, their schedule up until the All-Star break and just a little bit past the All-Star break is brutal. Okay, right? First of all, they have no days off until the All-Star break, which is like July 13th-ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. No days off.
Weeks.
And they play the Dodgers, the Rays, the Dodgers, the Padres. They play all those teams. All those teams are way better. And they got one against the Mets tomorrow. And then they got, like I said, 2 against Tampa, 4 against the Dodgers. Then they go on the road, and then they got the Padres. They're gonna have to stay close to 500 until the All-Star break, or else this is just gonna get away from them real quick. But today is Scherz Day, right? Today is Scherz Day,
there you go.
Everybody be there for Scherz Day.
Oh, he's got a real Scherzer jersey. Yeah. This is a big step for Stoner, who's used to just grabbing like some random like 5th stringer
Mark
just
Brunell
to support. Yeah. So
but I still
good to see a Scherzer jersey.
I go into my closet every morning, every Sunday morning before the show, and I go into my closet, and I open it up, and I go, I got nothing. I need more swag.
Yeah, I'm on that same train. I was wondering what I was going to wear today. I was almost going to pull down McLaurin and
wear it?
Throw something on, but I decided to wear someone who wasn't on our poll.
Yeah.
But see if you can guess whose jersey this is.
I'm going to guess Champ Bailey.
That is Champ Bailey. That is correct. I really had big hopes for him in burgundy and gold, and then he was traded away for somebody who did make the poll. But we'll go ahead and talk about that in the game coming up right here in a moment. All right, game on, you sports people. It's time for our poll that we put on Ref the District. You can catch us on Twitter at Ref the District. You'll see the Stoner and I interact with that account. And I told Stoner he needs to start putting some more controversial things up there. And so if you see something, you can interact with us on that account, not just with at StoneDog23 or at the Nathan Perry, but specifically at Ref the District. Now, walk us through this poll. I don't want to do too much on my computer because, like, if I change something, I'm worried that we're going to lose this again.
Yeah. Okay. So we put out a poll 2 weeks ago. We put out a poll about which player has done the most damage to the franchise in the last 20 years since Dan Snyder took over, basically. And Albert Haynesworth easily won that. So we decided to flip it and say, okay, who's had the most positive impact? And that's kind of hard to do. It was actually harder than the players who had a damaging impact on the team, because there are really a lot of guys, and I'm trying to think of who would fit into that category properly, because you only get 4 at the most.
And some people were not happy with the list that we came up with.
Yeah.
And I think on this regard, I think this is a great thing, right? You want the team hasn't always had, a team as a whole, right? Like, here in the last 20 years, not a lot of winning records, not a lot of great teams to get behind, but there've been good to great players, and players, even if they're not a good to great player, at least players we can get behind and really support. And that's, I think, is a good thing. That's something you want, and I think that's what keeps the fan base really, really going. I mean, the fan base will swell when winning, when you win, but the ones, the people who are like us, who are crazy enough to start a podcast on the, that deals mostly with Washington football team, that you're going to have players that you like. So walk us through the 4 that you got before giving us the results. I just want to know, how did you said it was hard to pick these 4, and people were really upset their favorite player wasn't put down. So how did you pick these 4?
Okay. So let's talk about those that got the controversial diss, if you will, right? The ones that were not
snubs, the snubs. Yeah. The people we snubbed on the poll.
And the biggest snub was Sean Taylor not being on the list. There were a lot of people that were not happy that Sean Taylor was not on the list. And I thought about it, and his time, 3.5 seasons, was just not a long enough time with the team. And, he really only excelled the last few years. So really, let's just say 3 seasons. He was great.
I think he had a solid rookie season, and he had a good sophomore season, and then it just got better and better.
Right.
Now, here's the thing, Stoner. I was kind of hoping you were going to come in and defend or not defend the fact that he wasn't on the poll. I was hoping you would apologize to these people, because there's people who are really, really upset with this. No. But here's the thing. I'm right there with you. I think that this is kind of the nostalgia glasses that we as fans have on. Right. And we had a whole episode not a whole episode, but we dedicated a good 20, 30 minutes to Sean Taylor. I have his jersey hanging up behind me here. And how he is, one of the greatest players to play in the burgundy and gold.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely, while his number might not need to be retired, he at least, needs the respect that we don't just give that number to anybody.
Sure.
And but for the question that you're asking here, the question that we have up, which is the most positive impact in the last 20 years, I agree with you. I don't think that he has the level. Now, he probably could have been in there over some of the 4, but he doesn't. There's other people that could have been on the 4 that Twitter allows that would have knocked Sean Taylor out. I do think that he's had a great impact on the franchise as a whole, just because of the lack of longevity there.
Yeah,
it's not going to have the works as somebody like I think you snubbed, which is London Fletcher.
Yeah, he was on my cut list. He was on the final cut. It was him. It was London Fletcher, Sean Taylor, and Santana Moss were the 3 that were the last cuts. They didn't make it in, and London Fletcher could have if
he had longevity.
Yeah,
he had pedigree. Everything. He was probably the best defensive player for years on the team. Some good defensive teams, mostly in the middle of the pack, but he kind of held it together.
Sure.
And I think that he, longtime captain and deserving of somebody who kept this team together. I think more so than possibly even Trent Williams, who made the list. So
well, let me ask you this about Trent Williams as compared to London Fletcher. Is Trent Williams going to the Hall of Fame? Sniff test.
More than likely.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Is London Fletcher going to the Hall of Fame?
Probably not.
Oh, there you go. I mean, that's a pretty good.
He's a borderline. He's a borderline one.
Yeah,
I think realistically he belongs in the Hall of Very Good.
Sure. He was a great player for a long time. A very good player for a long time, but not Hall of Fame worthy.
Yeah.
So you got to keep some guys off. If Sean Taylor was on this list, could he have won? Possibly. But
I think he probably would have won just based off of the people from Twitter. I mean, you saw how many votes RG3 got as far as like the player who did the most damage and was the worst, right? And I think there's some recency bias there. We're asking within the last 20 years, so it's all going to be somewhat recent. But I think what plays in people's heads, right, is when they're talking about the emotions, a lot of people tie some of the franchise dregs to the fact that they traded away, the future to get RG3 and he didn't pan out.
Yeah.
And then on the positive side, people look to see a player that they, have, again, those nostalgic glasses that they think like this guy was something. And Sean Taylor was that guy. Sean Taylor is somebody who, if he lived to continue playing, likely he's a Hall of Fame player, right? And he is somebody who has an impact at the level that we're seeing Chase Young have with the defense. And so that's where I think that if you put him on there, I think that people would have just voted for him because of all those factors, right? He's probably the best player to don the burgundy and gold in the last 20 years.
Yeah. Well, and then another one, I agree with pretty much all of that. And another one that just missed the list that a lot of people would have liked to see on the list was Santana Moss, because he did it for a lot of years.
He
played at a high level for many years.
Great free agent ad. Was he a free agent? The best reserve?
I thought he was a trade. Wasn't he traded for like Lavernius Coles or something like that?
You might be right.
Or vice versa. I don't know. Maybe he went there. I don't know.
He wasn't drafted. How's that? So he wasn't drafted. Came to the team, however. And yes, a good pickup is what we'll call it.
Some of the people out there will
someone's going to correct us.
Someone's
going to get mad at us,
right, for not knowing.
But no, so he was a great pickup. Did it for many years. I think a lot of people, when you're talking about what that's nostalgia glasses, when you're thinking about Santana Moss, you're thinking about that comeback with Mark Brunell against the Cowboys.
Sure.
So that was an exciting game, and I think Santana Moss was very deserving to be on there.
Sure.
Another player I think that a good receiver would be Pierre Garcon.
Mm-hmm.
He was somebody who did it for several years in the burgundy and gold and was just an outstanding player. More than happy to see him, on the field for Washington.
We even had a couple of people lobby for Tress Way, which is he's been very good, but he's a punter. He's a little bit.
He's been snubbed. He's probably been the best punter in the last 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Every one of the last 5 seasons, and he's been snubbed so many times, largely because he's just on some horrible teams, and so they give. But this guy gives us an advantage when he's there, kicking off, punting away the ball.
Okay.
Which Washington tends to do more often than not.
Right. So he's a part of a play maybe 8 to 10 times a game. All these guys we're talking about on here are part of a play 50, 60, 70 times a game. Yeah. And they have more impact on.
I don't disagree. I like Tressway.
Yeah,
I want to have a beer. I want to have a beer with Tressway at some point. Like, I feel like that would be pretty special.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the guys who did make it onto the list. And we had these 4 guys: Trent Williams, Chris Cooley, Clinton Portis, and Ryan Carrigan. And if I were to take anybody off the list for any of those that we thought might make the list or should make the list, like Santana, London, and Sean Taylor, it would probably be Clinton Portis, because again, his longevity was not as long as everybody else, and he was not drafted here, right?
He was traded.
He was traded here.
Traded champ. That was the Champ
Well,
Bailey.
the Champ Bailey also couldn't put Champ Bailey on there. I mean,
No, you couldn't.
he was like from the 90s, late 90s into early 2000-ish.
Yes.
Like 98 to 2001, whatever.
Yeah, I think maybe 2002, somewhere in there. The no, but I'm saying they traded Champ for Portis.
Yeah.
I'm just happy Portis did work out here because a lot of those Shanahan QBs, or not QBs, but running backs, when they left the Shanahan system, they weren't as good.
Yeah.
And so it was good to see that Clinton Portis was good for several years here in the Burgundy and Gold.
And he was quite entertaining with his press conferences. Jerome from Southwest, and those were all awesome.
Hilarious.
Which is
I actually have all four of the jerseys, by the way, of the people we put on the poll. So at least we got something right.
All right.
Even if I had to take down Carrigan's from behind me because he's an Eagle right now, we'll put it back up when he retires.
Right. So Clinton Portis got the least amount of votes, 11.6%. And by the way, this poll had good interaction, had quite a few votes, 146,000. Oh wait,
got to put the old man glasses on. Put the old man glasses on.
Oh wait, 146. But still, that's pretty good reach anyway.
But for us, and we appreciate it. So if you're interacting with us, we do appreciate that.
Absolutely. So he got 11.6% of the votes. And we already talked about him a little bit. And second from the bottom, which would be third on the list, was Trent Williams. And I think also that's one of those nostalgia, whatever the opposite of nostalgia.
Yeah, the recency bias on this is actually it's hurting him.
Yes,
because of the fact that the way that he ended with the team, the fact that he's still currently playing and at a level that is absolutely dominant. It pains us, I think, as fans because this was our stalwart, left tackle.
Yeah,
this was our future Hall of Famer, and we just shot it away. It just went away.
And he was drafted, and so he was developed. You always like those guys better if you draft him and he's here for a while and you develop him and he turns into an all-pro. And that was exactly what Trent. He was a warrior. He played hurt all the time. He was
silverback.
Yeah, he was great at what he did. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. So
I would be shocked the amount of all-pros and Pro Bowls that he's made. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. I think he's on the all-decade team.
Sure.
So
all-decade of the NFL, or all-decade
at least
the MC. Sure. Yeah.
I would have to check. He's definitely. I mean, he's been the best, or if not one of the top 3 left tackles, pretty much since he came into the league.
Yeah.
So he's been dominant his entire time. I think that where I think he does lose votes from is not just because of recency bias, but because of how it went down, right? Like when you're talking about somebody who has had the greatest impact, the discontent there at the end kind of unraveled some of that. There was a lot of fans who weren't happy with him.
Sure.
A lot of fans didn't back him. They thought that he was dismantling the team from within for what he was doing. And I mean, the guy had legit concerns, okay? He had to have a growth removed from his head. The medical staff was just like, not a big deal. Oh, it turns out that it was, could have been cancerous and all this other stuff. So he had legit beef, but people just don't like it when you go against the grain, right?
Well, you just go against the entire organization. That's hard when you're a fan of the organization.
If anything, people should have given him some more points, some brownie points on this, because he helped usher out Bruce Allen.
Okay, so then Bruce Allen goes, Jay Gruden goes, they redo everything. The entire training staff, doctors, staff, they're all gone after all of this, and he still didn't want to play for them. So, right, he did all of that the team did all of that while he was holding out or not playing or whatever it was determined to be when he sat out a year, right? So they replaced everybody that he had a problem with, and then he still didn't want to play for them, right? They brought in Doug Williams to talk to him, and
the damage I think at that point was done. I think that it came too late.
Yeah.
I think that's what
It was
what
already,
it was.
the bridge was blown up.
Yeah, Bruce Allen and the team, the front office, they stuck their gun to their guns, and then finally, when push came to shove, the action just came too late. Okay. And so for Trent, he's just like, no, you've already shown me who you are.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna stick with this. Yeah. I think it's time for me to move on.
And who did they get last year? Because they got a second rounder for him.
Was it second or third?
Second or third? Like, who was their guy that they drafted last year or the year before? Whenever, do we know? I mean, it'd be cool to kind of look that up.
They've hit on their last couple of second and third rounders. So as long as the name's not Darius Geis, I think we'd be okay. So
that's right. All right. So the runner-up in this with 21.9% of the vote was Chris Cooley, and Chris Cooley did a lot for a number of years and played at a high level, kind of in that Santana Moss. But he probably makes it again because he was drafted and he was developed and he became a Pro Bowler.
Chaos.
Yeah, and he was great for a lot of years until, just like everybody else, his body broke down on him and he couldn't play anymore. But he did it for a long time, and he was always positive, and he still works for the team. Does he? In the radio?
He used to. I'm not sure where he fits in now.
He was in the radio booth for a while.
He was, but it's now Julie Hall, D'Angelo Hall, and then an actual broadcaster that are running the show. Yeah, so they're running the show now. But Cooley used to be up there with the couple of knuckleheads that we were used to listening for a long time. Yeah, I'm not sure where exactly he fits in with the organization, but he did stick with Washington after getting out. He played at a great level. He was somebody who I think fans have mostly a good connection with, and so I think that's deserving. I do wonder how that ended because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that he's not currently working with the team. I think he's keeping a more low profile.
Yeah. Well, he might be working like for a local radio, maybe.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out for Captain Chaos.
We got a lot of things we got to check out that we don't know. We need to make a list and come back.
I'm morning man. I had so many plans this morning. Oof.
All right. So then number one, which I don't think was a real surprise to anybody, is of course Ryan Carrigan. He was here. He again a draft pick, a first rounder. He was here a long time. He played every single game, every single down. Sometimes they didn't utilize him properly when they had him trying to cover guys. That's not who he is. But he did it at a high level. He had plenty of. He's the all-time sack leader for the organization. He's close to 100, I think, right? Somewhere around there. And again, he did it year after year after year after year, and at a high level, a few Pro Bowls. That's a no-brainer to me. Ryan Carrigan, when I thought about this, Ryan Carrigan is going to win this. He's going to run away with it, and he did with 51.4% of the vote. Ryan Carrigan has had the most positive impact for the Washington football team over the last 20 years.
I'm a little surprised that people came and defended him in that regard, because especially with him leaving the team, right? A lot of people were just like, you'd hear from the fan base, he isn't a special player, and I'd have to defend him and be like, this guy is legit. He's a high motor guy. He's not quite the impact level that you're going to see with Chase Young, and he's not somebody who is flashy like Montez Sweat, but he's just always there. And he does those things that you want. I think where another thing that fans knock him for, and where I find it surprising that he did this well in this poll, is he's not like a team captain, right? He's not somebody he's not a vocal captain, at least, right? So as far as his leadership skills, he was just kind of always just kind of there. He definitely one of the better players in the last 20 years for Washington.
Absolutely.
He stuck with the team, so he didn't have the same kind of discontent that Trent Williams had. He was, you mentioned the longevity, being drafted, so he has that over guys like Portis and a couple others that we mentioned in the snubbed list. And then he played at a higher level than Chris Cooley. Cooley was a good tight end, but he was never a great tight end. And I think that Carrigan at times has been a great defensive end. And in fact, some of the stats that would probably surprise you with Carrigan is that since he's joined the league, he's actually been one of like the top 5 sack artists. But people, the guy's had double-digit sacks multiple times. He's always been, as you mentioned, the sack leader. I think just shy of 100.
And he's great in the community, right? He represents your organization in a positive light. It's everything that you can ask. You can't ask a football player, an NFLer who plays in the trenches every down, to last 10 or 11 years at a high level all of those years. You can't ask for more than that. That's exactly what you hope for when you draft a guy in the middle of the first round, and he does exactly what you would hope he'd do.
So my question then is this, right? So you put Carrigan in there, and Carrigan won. A lot of those things you just described London Fletcher. Aside from the fact that he wasn't drafted in the first round by Washington, is that the only thing that really gave Carrigan the nod? Because I think London Fletcher played at a high level for the team. Both players probably not going to make the Hall of Fame. I think London Fletcher's closer than Carrigan. I think Carrigan is definitely cemented in the Hall of Very Good. But London Fletcher, you might actually, have the opportunity at some point to be a Hall of Famer based off of the fact that he's got a Super Bowl ring and he's led the league in tackles for so many years and whatnot. He's played at a high level for a decade plus on the Burgundy and Gold. This guy played in 20 seasons. Was the Iron Man, never missed a down or anything like that. So I again think that this is our biggest snub, even more so than Sean Taylor. I know a lot of people were really upset with Sean Taylor being off the list. We had the end thread person on Twitter. I just think that, realistic, and when we're looking at it, though, London Fletcher probably had a bigger impact than Carrigan.
I don't agree with that. But those other things that you talked about do play a part. The fact that he was brought over, I believe, as a free agent, as opposed to being drafted and developed. That's always a big thing in people's mind when you draft somebody and you want to fall in love with that player and hope that he's here for 10 years. And that's what Ryan Carrigan did. So just looking at the stats, Carrigan was here for 10 years and Fletcher was 7. So that's 3 additional years. Okay. And really, at the end of Fletcher's time, you could see
this guy was like pushing 40.
Yeah, he was
towards the end of his.
And it showed, right? Well,
and he was still one of the better players on the team.
And think about what
that says probably more about the team than it does.
And Carrigan last year was still playing at a high level. He wasn't playing as much because he had better players in front of him.
I think he played at a high level because he wasn't playing as much, right? So that was somewhere where Fletcher was being put out there, all the time. Kind of similar, not dissimilar to Bostic, who I think is lost a step compared to some of these younger guys.
Yeah, maybe.
Fletcher, though, was just a smart player, always there in the right place, right time, and a joy to watch. Still somebody who's involved in the community and the Burgundy and Gold, and so all right, 3 years difference. Points, okay, 3 years difference in the draft. I guess I'll give it to you.
I think the draft plays.
I'll give it to you.
It plays a role. For example, if you're going when you're looking at quarterbacks, if Dwayne Haskins had been able to have a great career here, he would have been looked upon in a brighter light than Alex Smith, right? Just because he was drafted, and you want to fall for that player on draft day.
Yeah, you want them to be successful. Yeah, Jason Campbell is the guy for me who I so wanted him to do well. I thought he was going to be great. Brunell came in and Brunell was good, but I was just like, nah, Jason Campbell, man. Jason Campbell's going to put it together. This is going to be the year. Like, we're at like his 5th year. I was like, this is going to be the year. Jason Campbell's going to put it together. Never panned out.
Never panned out. That's all right. They gave him plenty of chances, though. Although I think his downfall was every year they seemed to change offensive coordinators and he had to learn a new system. Poor guy.
that poor guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it worked out. Well, I guess that's our poll, man.
It's a good poll.
It was good. Thank you to the 130 responses. Thank you to,
146.
to those people.
Don't sell them short.
146.
Yep.
Thank you to 146. Thank you to those people who commented and wrote in, myself included, with London Fletcher. I think some great names again that were left off. We mentioned already Santana Moss. Pierre Garcon, I think, was an excellent addition for the team. Gave them some grit.
And one guy even said we should have redid the poll.
Just take it down and
redo it and put Sean Taylor in there, or else it's not a worthy poll.
Not legit.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. That individual got a little sassy too when you asked for him to kind of that particular person to go further in depth.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if I have to explain it, then yikes.
Well,
I was just like, well, we just wanted this person to put down their thoughts, so that way we can articulate accurately why they feel, because we know why Sean Taylor probably should make the list, but we also know why he isn't. And I honestly, I'm going to stand by the fact that I don't think he belongs in the top 4 as far as the positive impact. I think that, again, Sean Taylor, great player, probably a Hall of Famer if he continues to play the game. But when you're talking in the last 20 years, who's had the most impact, he's gonna lose out to those who are able to play longer. Well, same thing would go for Chase. If Chase up and retired today, like one good rookie season, defensive rookie of the year, 10 years from now, we're not going to be like, hey, he was the greatest Washington football player to play within the last 2 decades. We're probably going to pick somebody who stuck with the team a little bit longer.
So let's just say the team that we have right now, there are a lot of candidates who could fit into this poll in 10 years from now. There are a lot of candidates, and we haven't been able to say that for a long time, right?
Yeah, maybe that's got to be our next poll is which player in the next 10 years do you think will have the greatest impact?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let me write it down.
Write that down. Get the old man glasses and write that down.
I don't need glasses to write stuff. I need glasses to read stuff.
Well, while he's writing it down, we're going to switch over. When we come back, it's going to be talking about our Washington Wizards and who they are going to pick up for their head coach. Welcome back to the post game. Just finished up the game. We're going to talk about our Washington Wizards here. The coaching track has been moving along. Mm-hmm. You got some good names off the board. Mm-hmm. I'm actually okay with where the teams have selected so far, because I think there's still a lot of good options out there, and I think that the coaches that have been taken are good. I'm not saying that they're bad coaches. I'm just saying that the pool of good coaches is still deep.
Sure. And how many openings are left?
So I think there's still 4. Is there 5?
I think there's only 2.
Is there only 2? There's got to be more than 2
just
now.
Washington and Orlando.
Well, I guess Jason Kidd got picked up for Dallas now, so that's closed that one. Portland's got Chauncey Billups.
Yep.
Boston took their G League coach, right?
Well, he was an
assistant.
He was an assistant for Brooklyn.
He was an assistant coach. So,
and then who else?
So this is a big. We got New Orleans. Indiana got Carlisle. That was probably the most disappointing. Was seeing Carlisle be taken off, but he went. So went back to the Pacers. So we have Orlando. We have New Orleans, Washington.
I think that's it.
Is it just the 3?
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's just the 3.
I think we started with 7.
Yeah, so that's where we're at now. We got 3, and there's, like you said, there's plenty of candidates still out there. We assume are candidates. Sometimes a name will pop up and say the Wizards are talking to this guy or interviewing this guy, and you'll go, oh, who is that? I never heard of Scott Morrison. But apparently, who's Scott Morrison?
That one, I think a lot of people are not happy about that. A lot of people are just like, I'm sorry, what? Who is this person? This person over, Cassell is a name that's died. Unseld Jr. is a name. Becky Hammond is one that
still
as much as we've heard that name early on in the process. These coaching gigs have come and gone, and I'm thinking Becky Hammond is left on the sidelines. Still, I'm I don't know. Oh no, she's going to get picked up in one of these last 3 positions.
Yeah, she's not going to. Like I said, it will happen sooner rather than later that you'll have your first female NBA head coach. This is not the year. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because the momentum has not been there for it yet. But she's getting interviews, which is a positive step. I think it will be a good thing. As I said before, it's bigger than basketball, but you still have to come back to it still has to be about basketball, right? It has to be about making the team better so that they can win. I just don't know if they're ready for that yet, but it will happen. So I don't think it's going to happen here. And everything we're hearing, right, is Cassell or Unseld Jr., which there have been polls out there. Which one would you rather have and why? Oh, who knows why? We like to say we know everything about them, but we don't. We don't have any idea of what goes on, what their relationships are like, how they interact with management, how they interact with players, what kind of offenses do they run, defenses that they run. Are they a player's coach or are they a hardliner? Who knows? All I know is that whoever it is, I would like it to be somebody who's young, and I would like it to be somebody who's a first-time head coach. Again, I don't know why. That's just why I think it would be successful.
That's what you're feeling like. I think I know why you want that is because you want them to be a first-time coach, so you don't want to retread. I know that's something we've been pretty big on.
Right.
So we want them to establish their dynasty here, right? That's what the hope is. Mm-hmm. And then in that regards is you want them to be young because you want somebody who's like Pop, who's been with the Spurs for 25 years now plus.
Yeah.
And look what he did with that franchise. So you're looking for that same kind of impact as somebody who can bring Washington to prominence. I can't even say back, back when they were the Bullets.
Yeah, too long ago.
It's been a long, long time since they've had consistently winning teams here.
Yeah.
And for that, I think that the names that they're coming up with are good. I think that Becky Hammond would. What I do hope is whenever a team is ready for that to make that jump, that it's the right team too, because you want to make sure that they're put in a successful position. And as much as the Wizards kind of improved towards the end, I don't know that this team is really set up to be that successful. I think they can make the jump, right? You see Atlanta made the jump. Atlanta was not a great team last year. This year they're fighting for a chance to get into the finals. Mm-hmm. And all they did was they changed up the coach.
Right. So, that's the only difference.
Yeah. So, obviously Trae Young's playing at an outstanding level. Maybe not so much this last game where they got walloped by like 40 points, right. But
well, doesn't it make sense?
It'll be interesting. And I think this is where you mentioned like a player's coach. I think this is where Westbrook, how much during this coaching search, how much are they going to Beal and Westbrook? And obviously it's got to be more Beal because Westbrook is somebody who just came to the team. Mm-hmm. And even though he's a former MVP, he's a piece that I think you could move for a variety of assets to surround Beal with. So how much do they go to Westbrook and how much do they go to Beal and be like, who what do you feel about this coach? Are they in on the interviews? Probably not.
No.
But they've got to at least be consulted with it.
100%.
So thankfully that consulting for Scott Brooks where they're just like, I want Scott back did not happen.
It didn't work.
So.
Yeah, you're right. I think they definitely talked to both of them about it, but I don't think that plays a huge role in what they decide. And don't forget, Tommy Shepard said in his press conference after they let Scotty Brooks go, Tommy Shepard said, we're going to swing big on this, right? So that doesn't mean Stan Van Gundy's coming in, right? That's not a big swing. A big swing, and I don't even know if Cassell and or Unseld Jr. would be a big swing. A big swing would be a Becky Hammond. A big swing would be a John Calipari or a Juwan Howard. That's a big swing. And I don't think any of those are going to happen. I think it's going to just come.
I'm hoping it won't be a college coach either. I think I don't want to retread.
You don't want a college coach.
I don't want a college coach. Yeah. I would rather a college coach than a retread, but I just think that the jump, not too many coaches make that jump and make it, do reasonably well. So.
But Juwan, before he went to Michigan, he was an NBA assistant for a long time. So he has the experience at least. And Calipari, he has the experience of flaming out in the NBA his first time. But doesn't it seem logical that Becky Hammond would take over for Pop in
I do.
San Antonio
I think Pop
he's
is nearing the end of his tenure. I think that
I think that would make sense.
Spurs transitioning into a team that's not nearly as good. I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
Is Pop going to do a farewell tour like Coach K out in Duke?
Probably not. But
no.
But he's built that culture in San Antonio, right? He's built that culture that everybody belongs, everybody has same opportunities. We'll draft the best players, not necessarily the sexy picks, the Ginobilis and Parkers and all these guys at the end of second round and all that. So he's developed a culture over 25 years, and I think Becky Hammond would be a perfect fit there, but we'll see what happens. We just worried about eventually who they're going to bring in here, and I guarantee you, whoever it is, I'm going to be on board with it because somebody will convince me to be on board with it. Because again, it'll be. I think what I know.
Not named Scott Brooks is already a highlight. Is already doing well. Yeah. So I think that's fair. I think that's good. So I'm gonna put you on the spot. You mentioned that poll: Unseld or Cassell? Who are you taking?
Well,
no. You got to answer.
Yeah, I'll take Unseld just because I've mentioned him a few times here.
You mentioned him enough. That's who I picked. Right. I was just like, all right, let's go with Unseld. That's actually the first time I heard Cassell's name in the coaching.
Oh yeah, he's been out there. He was an assistant for quite a while.
Yeah, I know he's been an assistant. Yeah. That was just the first time I think that he's in my view of things has been tied to the Wizards coaching hunt.
Yeah.
So, you've seen some of these other names, and then all of a sudden it was just like, hey, it's down to Unseld Jr. and Cassell. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess let me look at this guy's track record. So, I mean, I know he's been around. I think that they both would be, fine fits. I think that the fairy tale ending is probably more so with Unseld Jr. Sure. Given the history with his dad and stuff like that. So,
but if you're Cassell or Unseld, and you've been grinding in the assistant coach game for 15 years at least for both of them. Now Unseld didn't play in the league, but Cassell played a long time, won a couple of rings, has been grinding as an assistant for a long time. Would you be a little bit ticked off that Chauncey Billups has been grinding as an assistant coach for 2 years and he gets a head coaching job and you're sitting there going, I've been doing this for 15. Give me a head coaching job. Would you be pissed at that, or would you be like, well, maybe he just has something that I don't?
He's a name like Chauncey Billups, who I think people have a probably higher regard for. Unseld being a coach and not a player, I think does put him in a different category. Mm-hmm. And Cassell, again, a good player. You mentioned got a couple of rings and whatnot, but I think that Chauncey Billups is probably more highly regarded as a basketball player and as a coach is what I think it comes down to. So I don't think the fact that they've been grinding for 15 years or so, and Chauncey Billups has only been up for 2 years. I think what it comes down to is it's Chauncey Billups. Wouldn't you want Chauncey? I'd take probably Chauncey Billups over someone like Ty Lue, who is also a player, but Ty Lue is also doing pretty darn good for himself as a coach with a ring from Cleveland, where no one, everyone was just like, he was carried by LeBron and Kyrie, but people might say that with the Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but the guy can make adjustments. He does. He's a decent coach for what it's worth. So
and who has more rings, Chauncey or Sam Cassell?
Cassell does, right? Yeah. Billups only has the one.
Yeah, Cassell's got two from the Houston days when Jordan retired those 2 years. Yeah. So
when Jordan did the league a favor and retired, to go play baseball and gave everyone a chance.
Yeah, Sam Cassell took advantage of that and won 2 rings with Houston. So I wouldn't have any problem. Really, again, you can pretty much tell me anybody unless they have a last name of Van Gundy, and you can probably convince me that he's going to be a good fit, or she.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. What do you give the timeline for? Do you think this is going to be done before the 4th of July? Do you think do you think we're going to have another episode next week? How soon do you think they'll pick a coach? Because the coaches, they're going around. Right. I mean, what's the delay, right? What is it that you can't even say that it's the playoffs, because you mentioned that Boston took a Nets assistant. The Nets are still playing for the title. Yeah. Right? They're still the champion.
Yeah, they were at that time. Maybe it was right after their season ended. I don't remember, but it was right around that time.
Yeah, it wasn't. That's what I'm saying. Is they were currently playing. There were still games left to have. The Game 7 hadn't happened.
Yeah. So obviously they're interviewing
Durant's big toe happened to be on the line.
Right.
Did you know that he wears shoes that are a size larger too?
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, so there's a neat little article being shared about the fact that he, to kind of help his game, he wears shoes that are slightly larger size. And now people are like, well, if he would have worn normal shoes, he would have
been in there.
It would have been in there.
Yeah, so I don't think I don't know. Do you need somebody in there super quick? This is not college sports where you have to worry about recruiting and all that. Right? Do you need somebody like before a certain date, or do you just need to make sure you find the right guy before somebody else snatches him? That's probably
I think you need the right person. Yeah. You know, the draft is coming up here, and not too long, right? The draft, we'll be discussing the draft probably here in the next couple of weeks. And so I'd want to say that the person that they were going to have come in for the coach should have kind of an opinion on who they're picking up.
Okay, that's fair.
So I think that you want them in sooner, because you can start putting that. They can start building. I don't think it's quite the same as the NFL, where the players and the coaches can't talk to each other in the off season.
Right.
I think they can have in the NBA they can have some interaction, and I think you're going to want that happening. So that way, whether or not it's Cassell, Unseld, Becky Hammond, they could reach out to Beal and Westbrook and be like, hey, I want to build a relationship with you, and you want that to happen sooner. And so I do wonder why, Scott Brooks left the team 2 weeks ago.
Probably more than that.
Probably even longer than that, maybe 3 weeks ago. So I want to know what the holdup is. Why is it taking so long? Are they going after some of these coaches that have been picked up, or what due diligence are they doing?
Well, you remember that story I told? That fake story I told about sources before the NFL draft. I had that long drawn out.
That was a fake story.
Right?
I am shocked, sir. I am shocked.
I can sometimes tell some pretty good stories. But in this case, I do actually have a source, a real source. And I'm not making this up. I do have a source that says they are interviewing all these people, and they are being very quiet about it. They don't want this information out there for whatever reason, but they are doing their due diligence. They are not just kind of sitting around and hoping somebody falls into their lap. They are doing a lot of interviews. So it might be this week. It could very well be this week before the holidays. I don't think it's going to be one of those Friday afternoon news dumps right before the holiday. I don't think it's going to be like that. So
if they do that means that they did pick up somebody Van Gundy. They picked up Van Gundy. They picked up somebody who nobody knows, and it was essentially, hey, we just need you to say you're the coach here for a little bit.
Yeah, but I do have a source, and the source is impeccable, and the source says that yes, they are doing some interviews. Believe it or not, I actually have a real source.
We might need to get your real source here on Ref the District with us.
Yeah, but we'll have to distance ourselves between what I just said about having a source.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. And then no one will connect the dots. When all of a sudden we start talking Wizards and we find out all this backstory on stuff, no one will connect the dots. It'll be fine. It'll be good. All right. Well, that's going to do it here for us on Ref the District. This has been episode 22. You can find us here on YouTube every Sunday at 10 a.m. We'll stream live, and you can even interact with us in the chat. We've had a couple of good mornings and hays that we've responded to there. We also put this out on podcasting platforms, so you can listen to us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon. So we're there where you need us, and we appreciate it. Leave us a comment, subscribe here to the YouTube channel if you're here listening and watching us. We will be discussing a shift in time as we get near the Washington football team season, because Sundays at 10 a.m. might not be a good time if we're going to be tailgating. But when we get closer, we'll also be having some other products we'll be pushing out. So stay tuned for that, and follow us out on Twitter at RefTheDistrict. He's the Stoner. I'm Nathan. Have a great day.